And it's such an honor for News Inside to win the Izzy Award. It is truly appreciated by everyone incarcerated because people who are incarcerated are largely seen as invisible, at least in their perception. And as Jeff, as you mentioned, there are many people incarcerated who are there for crimes they didn't commit. Some of them are there for crimes they did commit, and there are a huge swath of them who have spent their time rebuilding their identity to be a total 180 from whatever they done to get them there in the first place. And I know because I was one of those individuals. As you mentioned, I was incarcerated at the age of 17. And during my incarceration, as one would imagine for someone so young, it was very tough. But when I began to try to find myself and build myself, I found myself being hungry for information. There are a lot of rules inside a prison that preclude publications to get into the people who need it most, because many prison administrators and departments, they want to do whatever they can to prevent contraband from entering the facilities. And some of them even try to prevent mental contraband, which is anything they think may incite a riot or cause everybody to get riled up. So knowing that, and when I was on the inside, I was lucky enough to take part in privately funded college courses. And I remember, writing papers. My professors would task us with writing a paper and having 8 sources to back up our claims. And I remember pouring through the outdated textbooks that they had to try to find something to back up what I was saying, but I couldn't. And the topics I had to pick was topics that was basically ones that would be reinforced by whatever minimal amount of text I had to support it. So I remember scourging through old garbage cans to find newspapers in order to find something different to write about, because officers would bring in newspapers, but they weren't allowed to give it to us. If they were to give it to us, they would be charged with promoting contraband and would lose their jobs. So all we can do is wait for them to throw it away and pick it up. And it may sound harsh, but it was something that we had to do in order to get where we wanted to be. And I would stay up all through the night. I would have my lamp on, reading things that I can get my hands on in order to write, which made it harder. But when I finally made my way to the parole board, um, I went to 5 parole boards in 7 months, which is kind of uncharacteristic for someone in New York State. For a person to go to the parole board 5 times would mean usually that person did an additional 10 years, because every time you don't make it, you have to wait 2 more years to get back. But due to a series of appeals and do-overs, I was able to go to the board that many times. And it was not just, I felt a lot of pressure because I wasn't going to the board just for me. I was going to the board for my family members. They were banking on me getting out. I was going to the board for all the men that were incarcerated in the same facility I was in, who had thought that I had done everything right. And if I was to make it, that means they was to make it. If I wouldn't make it, that means that they wouldn't be able to make it. And while I was going through this, a friend suggested that I write it down. But I told her I'm not gonna write it down. I'm fighting for my life here. I mean, I don't wanna write it down. I want to focus on the task at hand. But she told me that sometimes when you're in a deep, dark place, writing, it makes for the best writing. You know what I mean? If you write it through that raw emotion. So I went back to my cell and I thought, what if I write this down and it might help someone who's less articulate than me that's going to the parole board? Maybe it can help someone. So I wrote it, and luck would have it that the Marshall Project picked it up and published it. And a month after they published it, I earned my release. And then when I got to the Marshall Project, I began remembering all the times I was going through garbage cans looking for newspapers for things to write on, but I was looking at the internet for the first time in my life, I had just started looking at the incident maybe 2 months prior. I had never seen it. And I saw all these beautifully written articles about criminal justice that would have helped me so much when I was incarcerated, and can help the men that I left behind and the women who are incarcerated all through the country, and the children at that. So I decided to put a pitch together to create News Inside. And I remember thinking that, wow, I got my graduate degree in Sing Sing Correctional Facility, but here my colleagues got journalism degrees from schools like Columbia, these Ivy League schools, and I might be feel like I'm out of my league. And but still, I say, all right, I'm gonna do this. So I called, the leadership of the Marshall Project, the president, Carol Bowgood, all the editors, including the famed Bill Keller. I called them in the room, and I pitched this idea. I told them how I would do it, and I told them that if they allowed me to do this thing, I promised the Marshall Project that I would get our work in at least 20 facilities in 10 states in a year's time. And in less than a year's time, I have gotten us in over 500 facilities in 38 states. So I was really proud of that accomplishment, but more so, I've been supremely proud of the responses I've gotten from all across the country, from people who really, really appreciate News Inside. One man even told me that, an old timer suggested that I read your magazine so I could learn something. But he told me that the only way I could get it is if I get it from the library. But he warned me that they go fast, so I better hurry up. So just to hear that people just run into the library every time an issue come out to read it, it's super empowering, and it makes me feel that I'm doing something that may wake up something in someone that'll change their life forever. And I'm glad to be a part of News Inside. I'm glad to bring it to the public, and so much so that I'll leak a little bit of information here. Is that in doing News Inside, I came across a study that stated that 60% of the incarcerated population is illiterate. So I thought, wow, I got News Inside going to only 40% of the people. But I remember when I was incarcerated, it might be people who don't speak English that get News Inside read to them. So I said, okay, so probably more than 40% reading my stuff, but I decided a way to get to everybody is to create a video version of News Inside. So we shot the first ever pilot, and we're calling it Inside Story. And that will be coming to online through facilities near you. So thank you for this award. It's such an honor. And on behalf of everyone incarcerated throughout the country, we appreciate you.